A red moon is shining over the city. Littered streets are hidden at the bottom of beautiful brightly lit skyscrapers. In the alley on the asphalt, among the dirt and garbage cans, many red lines flow along the ground. The man brings his hand to them and realizes that there are a lot of traces. He says that the evil spirits are somewhere nearby. His eyes glow with a violet light. The man touches the footprints. They pass to his hand. The amulet eye on his chest informs him that the traces have been collected, and addressing him as the owner, informs him that the man can use the power of the collected traces at any time. The man replies that first you need to understand where the evil spirits are. Behind the man's back, the footprints begin to bubble. Then, the tracks take the form of lines and rush upwards. The man's eyes are burning purple. He is looking in the same direction where the lines are going. Suddenly, something from above attracts his attention. He jumps to the side, managing to avoid the attack of a creature that landed on the place where he previously stood. The man lands on one knee and says that it seems the evil spirits were hiding in the tracks and waiting in ambush. The man looks at the wall and notices that there are a lot of footprints on the wall. The man looks at the wall where the red silhouettes of creatures are visible. They occupy almost the entire wall and bubble, taking on something similar to a human form. One of the silhouettes sticking out of the wall attracts the man's attention. He happily announces that he has found her. Red silhouettes rush at the man, knocking him down. The man grabs one of them by the head and says that she cannot escape. The man throws the creature aside. By the external features of the creature, the man understands that it is a girl. He says it's dangerous. It turns out to be a girl. A red-colored creature with no arms, but with 3 glowing eyes, looks at a man. The creature has long legs, pointed at the end. The man says that such legs are all looming in front of his face, which made him embarrassed. Such words make the creature angry. The amulet eye on the man's chest tells him that there is no need to provoke evil spirits. They are more dangerous when irritated. Chang replies that he did not provoke, but made a sincere compliment. The creature rushes at him, raising its leg to attack. The amulet eye informs the man that evil spirits consider him an enemy, so it immediately releases the power of accumulated traces. The amulet eye begins to glow and exude energy. He begins to pulsate on the man's chest. Purple energy beats out of him, which envelops the guy. The guy's hand glows with a purple light and changes. Instead of the man's right hand, tentacles appear. His eyes light up with a purple light. He uses binding bonds against the creature to which the tentacles are rushing. They tie the creature by the legs. It is surprised by such an attack. The man says in surprise that this is the power of accumulated traces. He looks at his modified hand in shock. The man continues to say that he hopes that what he did will not be considered harassment. The amulet eye tells him that it is worth putting such thoughts out of his head. The creature breaks out of its bonds, tearing the tentacles that bound the legs. The guy is shocked. Pieces of his tentacles fly around him. The evil spirits jump, raising their foot and preparing to attack him. The man jumps aside. He is outraged and asks the creature if it is still trying to resist. The man, using tentacles, again uses binding bonds against the monster. Purple tentacles completely binds the evil spirits, wrapping her entire body. The man says that he likes that she stubbornly resists, but he says out loud that he hopes he doesn't look like a complete scoundrel. The amulet eye asks him not to think about such things. The creature is trying to break out of its bonds. Her belly starts to glow red. Something toothy comes out of it. This is a huge tentacle with a mouth that attacks the stricken man. Jaws close on the guy's chest. He thinks that damn it, he got caught. And he begins to think that this is the end. Blood starts coming out of his mouth. It hurts him. The man thinks he's going to die here. A huge monster is preparing to swallow a guy. He looks at the creature's mouth in front of him and thinks why this happened. Why did he take this job at all? The guy's name is Chang Tsai Kun. We can say that he is an ordinary high school student. Chang is walking down a busy street with a phone in his hands. People are walking around, except he can see something unusual, that which is accompanied by fear. Chang stops. Looking at the phone, the silhouette of a huge monster can be seen in the sky above him. It was this feeling that he felt when he saw something like this as a child. A little boy is standing with a ball in his hands. He is scared, and people walk around without noticing anything. But the boy quickly realized that no one sees the monsters except him. This is the fear of surprise, which only he can enjoy alone. The boy looks at the river from which a huge monster climbs out. The boy is amazed at what he saw. The monsters strongly attracted Chang. Everyone thought he was weird, even his parents, but he was allowed to rent a house for himself and live alone. There was no question of coming on vacation. Chang is walking down the street when something catches his attention. He turns around in surprise. He sees red glowing footprints on the ground. A familiar feeling. These are traces of those creatures. Perhaps someone is waiting in the alley. Chang runs into an alley, and a strange purple creature flies into his face. He picks it up in surprise. He is touched by the sight of the monster, and he is shocked that he needs to be killed. The monster jumps out of his hands and runs away. Evil spirits jump into the girl's arms. She says that there really is a person who can see monsters without losing his mind. She asks if Chang isn't scared. He is amazed at the beauty of the girl. Even though she has closed her eyes, he can still feel the grace of her thoughts. Even if the most beautiful woman in the world is standing in front of him, you need to remain steadfast. After all, the eyes can be deceived, but the painfully familiar anxiety in his heart tells him that she is not a person, a monster in human skin. The girl tells Chang that his facial expression speaks for itself. She didn't expect that there were people in this world who liked monsters. He is not interested in her because he only needs a job. Chang replies that the job she mentioned will allow him to contact more creatures. Isn't that weird? The girl is looking for those who have lost their way in the world of oddities in order to lure them to a safe place. If he is ready to take up the job, he will have many contacts with them in the future, and she will certainly provide the necessary support. The girl says that until he really gets up the courage, he should accept her offer and they will be together. She hands him an amulet in the shape of an eye. Chang remembered why he had taken the job then. To prevent monsters from living on Earth. Chang asks the person in front of him if he is his new employer. A girl with long hair stands, looks at Chang and says that he is lying on the ground, doing nonsense, shirking. What is his attitude to work? Behind the wall, near which the girl is standing, there is a creature that previously attacked Chang. He is amazed by the words he has heard. The girl says that if Chang is really worried about the monsters, he must save them from anxiety. Chang asks the girl who she is. He says it's dangerous here. Chang is lying wounded on the ground. The girl is standing next to him. He advises them to watch their lives when a red creature jumps out at them from behind the wall. The monster attacks the place where Chang and the girl were, but she managed to jump aside with him in time. She asks Chang why he didn't warn her. She runs, dragging Chang with her, and saying that without her, he would have already died. Chang notes that his wounds are healing, but he will not have a beautiful scar. Chang thinks that the woman he met earlier sent this girl to help. He would never have thought that she would be so attentive. The girl tells him that first of all he must understand that she is responsible in his relationship with evil spirits, the end of which depends on Chang and his blitz skills. Suddenly, a red creature appears in their path, blocking their way. The monster blows the girl's head off with one blow. Her head flies off to the side, and Chang falls from her unclenched hands, straight to the ground. He is amazed by what has happened. The girl's head screams that she is not dead, and that Chang should not even dare to think about it. He says that everything is fine. He knows how to make the monster calm down. This is what she calls the whisper of evil spirits. Chang closes one eye, the other begins to glow with a purple light. The eye on his chest is also filled with energy. The monster begins to pull further away from Chang. The creature tries to fight, but to no avail. Chang looks at the monster. His eyes and amulet shine purple. He says, "How impatient." The violet ray binds the evil spirits. Chang tells her to be careful and not to trip. The creature is standing. Its legs are shackled by a violet ray. The tongue sticks out of the belly of evil spirits. Suddenly, the monster's tongue is pierced by purple rays. Purple rays bind evil spirits, intercepting the throat, waist, legs. Chang is also surrounded by purple rays. Red lines are spreading across his face and body. The amulet on the chest glows red. The same as the monster. Chang says he absorbs drops of anxiety, reconstructs drops of anxiety. Chang opens his eyes glowing with purple light and says that Blitzkrieg is the first power he received from the evil spirit's blitz. These thin threads are not just a fragile web. They hide in themselves a huge force to drive away. Chang, surrounded by purple threads that bound the monster, approaches him and tells him not to be afraid of him. He's here to help. Evil spirits make a strange sound. Red energy begins to emanate from her. She flies up, red energy flows under her. Chang stands and looks at it in silence. The severed head of the girl shouts to Chang to look. It's a flash of excitement. Evil spirits, engulfed by red energy, hovers over the place where Chang is standing. He looks at her, purple rays streaming from his hands. The amulet on Chang's chest is pulsing. This surprises the creature. Suddenly, from the purple threads, energy begins to emanate, which strikes evil spirits. Chang looks at her. The surprised creature falls. Chang puts out his hands and catches the monster. The evil spirits turn their heads from side to side, not understanding what happened. Chang says what a pity. He takes the monster by the leg and says that her legs are all scarred. Before they met, he found a space where the earth and walls were shrouded in anxiety. Stepping on the piercing rubble, it's like turning into a barefoot figure, staining the ground with blood. Chang remembers a space painted in black and red, a white mountain towering in front of him and a creature standing at the very peak. Maybe others are blind and can't see, but he did. Chang remembers falling from a monster attack. He turns to the evil spirits and says that if he had not been attracted by her behavior, he would not have noticed this particular part of her. Chang continues to say that no one can feel the discomfort of evil spirits in this world and no one can understand her pain. And these bleeding wounds, they will never be able to heal. But it doesn't matter anymore. Chang narrows his eyes, looking at the monster. He invites the creature to return home. He will surely heal these wounds on his legs. The evil spirits are deeply impressed by his words and sentence. The wounded girl puts her head back in place and screams, asking what this unity means in general. She points at Chang with her finger and shouts that why should his human give up Blitz's power? If the evil spirits shoot fire, then he will die in a matter of seconds. And in general, Chang holds the creature as if it were his beloved. Chang is surprised by her words. He tells the evil spirits not to be scared, because that girl is just jealous of their newfound intimacy. The same one shouts at him that who is he to call her envious. The girl with short blonde hair who gave Chang a job, watching all this, says that now she understands that his conversation with the whisper of evil spirits is not bragging. This test proves without any questions that Chang is worthy of this job. In response to this, another girl with dark hair says that she is also evil, but it does not seem that Chang understands her feelings. The blonde girl hugs her and says that Chang may be a weirdo, but he should try to pay a little attention. And now that they have agreed on everything, they will go to the world of evil spirits, where Chang will see them for real. She offers him to introduce him to the evil spirits. Chang is confused and happy. He goes to the harem of evil spirits, a sign with the inscription Exit B2. A blonde girl approaches the car and says that this is their transport. She is followed by a dark-haired girl and a red creature. The blonde girl opens the car and asks her companions if they would like to take a ride, inviting them into the car. Chang sits in the back passenger seat. The creature is sitting next to him. He says it's hard for him to imagine this girl driving. The dark-haired girl answers him that they are learning pretty fast. She clutches the key in her hands and inserts it into the ignition. The car starts. A vortex of purple energy appears under it. Chang realizes that the girl doesn't really know how to drive. The car begins to fall into a whirlpool of energy. Chang understands that this car is not simple. She disappears into the energy, and the whirlpool tightens. The car turns into a ship with a tail that flies in a whirlwind of multicolored energy. Chang understands that this means moves by itself. They are all sitting and looking at the energy around, along which the ship is moving. Chang does not understand what kind of evil style travel is. Every cell of his body shudders when the car floats or soars. The ship bursts out of energy into dark space. He lands on a purple glowing circle. A blonde girl gets out of it and informs them that they are in place. Chang, not ready for this, flies out of the ship. He falls to the ground, losing his balance, and he is amazed at what he saw. Before him is a world of evil spirits. Chang sees strange buildings and strange creatures that don't look like each other and people. He is ecstatic and amazed. The blonde girl offers them, following all human customs, to find a place to talk. They go to the institution. At the entrance, a waitress girl is half human, half a creature similar to a caterpillar with a tail. A monster bartender with many hands distributes drinks to visitors. One of the guests asks the waiter for another glass. He gives away one flamenco cocktail for a charming client B33T. There is a request to repeat for new guests. Chang, two girls and a monster walk towards the bar. Chang, two girls and a monster are sitting at a round table. There are glasses of drinks in front of them. A sculpture of an incomprehensible shape glows on the table. A blue liquid is squeezed out of an incomprehensible object into a glass opposite Chang. The glass is pushed towards him and offered to try. Chang looks at the wine glass and its contents in shock. A purple ball is taken out of a transparent vase with tongs. The ball is divided in half and a smaller ball falls out of the shell, which flies into the glass. A blonde girl takes a glass with a floating ball inside. She says this place is called Moonrise. She is the mistress of the Moonrise, but she can be called a non-entity. Her name is Jianren, which is a homonym for a word that means nothing. Chang does not understand why she is called a nobody and how you can humiliate yourself like that. A dark-haired girl tells him that this is a homonym for the name. Jianren says she has never considered her name from the angle of human language. Her name serves as a constant reminder of rejection. Chang asks what she's talking about. Jianren says that almost all the local evil spirits are aliens for another world. For them, they are exiles from another world, and they were strangers to the old world. She remembers how the inhabitants of those worlds reacted to them. As strange and frightening as they are, one blunder could harm everyone around. They don't fit into any group. They are a disaster and misfortune for everyone. In her memory, people killed the monster they met. Instead of calling Moonrise their home, it's worth calling it their prison. Jianren tells Chang that she would like to instruct him to find a place for the permanent residence of evil spirits, so they can live peacefully at the Moonrise. Chang is amazed by her request. Jianren continues that it is for their safety as well as the safety of the whole world. Chang replies that this is nothing for him, provided that he is not prevented from getting closer to evil spirits. The red creature is sitting next to him, clinging to him. Jianren says that he is so determined to accept it that she is even embarrassed. No matter how much she admired his talents, but this child will now be with him just in case. She points her hand at the dark-haired girl. She introduces herself as Guan Shu, a born evil. Lady Jianren also asked her to help with the management. But even so, she still can't recognize Chang. She asks if it's true that he claims to be well-versed in evil spirits, and invites him to try to understand what her abilities are. Chang tells her that she reminds him of human women with her harmfulness. This is a strange feature for evil spirits. Guan Sha replies to him that he can get angry on behalf of all women and nail him. Chang takes her by the face and says he would rather not be defeated. Therefore, he will act first. Chang lifts Guan's head with both hands, separating it from the body. He stands and holds her head in his hands. Guan asks him if he thinks he can grab her head and threaten her. Chang is amazed. He kisses Guan. Jianren calmly drinks a cocktail. The red creature is in shock. Chang says he thought so. These are really strange and inhuman feelings. Guan asks if that's how they show their guesses. Chang says that if she is the evil spirits of these places, then she is just a delightful head, described in fairy tales as Liaoxia. Just a hand and a head, without a body in sight. Only walls without the need for a battle. Chang imagines such a creature. He says that Guan's body looks like a prosthetic, which she uses to impersonate a person, and it looks like she can freely control it while the head is attached. Chang continues that if Liaoxia's records are correct, then Guang should also have one arm, which belongs to the main body. Guang headbutts Chang and then bites his hand. Chang puts her head back in place. He says he finally realized that her head is just misleading her enemies, since her hand is the true body. Chang takes Guang's hand. She sends him to hell and her head shoots at him like a projectile. Changa crashes into the window, and the glass breaks. He flies out of the room and falls. He's flying and doesn't understand why he's still falling. He hangs in the air and understands what is happening. The whole place Moonrise is a huge evil. Green tentacles reach out to Chang, which wrap around him. They return Chang to a solid surface. Jianren says there's nothing wrong with fooling around on Moonrise from time to time, but she really wants him Guan Shu to get along. She decides that they should be together that night. They are shocked by her words. Chang is surprised by the room he finds himself in. Everything is neatly arranged in it. Everything is clean. Everything sparkles. The window offers a beautiful view. Chang says it doesn't even remotely resemble a room of evil spirits. Chang walks inside and the door slams shut behind him. He freezes in surprise. The lock clicks on the door and it locks. Guan turns to him and attacks. She strikes right in front of the face of the stricken Chang, and with her hand breaks through the wall near his head. She says it's not the time for games. Chang feels that he is accumulating anxiety and that he needs to be more careful. He uses his powers, and purple tentacles appear near his hand, which entangle Guan's body. Then, obeying Chang's will, they slam Guan into the wall. Chang exhales, rejoicing at the victory. Guan is pinned to the wall and can't move. The tentacles are filled with energy. Guan begins to absorb anxiety. Chang speculates that this counterattack could have worked if not for the difference in strength with Guan. From high to low, the rating of evil spirits is based on the horror class, the danger class, the death class, and the bloodshed class. He imagines monsters of various classes. After the owner entered into a symbiosis with him, he became the junior leader of the evil spirits and could cope with the bloodshed on his own. Guan was responsible only for support and communication. But once she succumbs to her own will, the real level of evil spirits reaches deadly. The head and the left arm are separated from Guan's body. They take off over the body. She reports that she has absorbed. Her body sinks to the floor. Her arm and head are stuck to the wall. Chang notices that the head has come off the body and remains in the wall of the room. He understands that given Guan's strength, an attack should be expected from either side. Chang looks around the room. Tentacles hovered near his hand, ready to attack. He hears the sound of some movement. He is abruptly pushed by the table in the back. Chang falls face down on the carpet. Guan reports that his conclusions were correct. It can pass through walls and manipulate inert materials to which it is attached. Chang is surprised. Guan's head hovered on the ceiling, and around, surrounded by energy, pieces of furniture and toys float in the air. Chang watches all this in shock. At the same time, a hand grabs his neck. Guan's body lands on top of him. She informs him that this is a welcoming ceremony for evil spirits, finding out the state through force. Chang is amazed, as he has never seen such a thing. She informs him that they are controlling evil spirits. Total victory is a truth that is known to all evil spirits. Guang reports that Chang may have received approval from Lady Jianren, but she chooses the complete absence of any verification. Chang is amazed. He says blitzkrieg. A tentacle protrudes from his mouth and rushes to Guan's face. He hits Guang on the head. Chang informs her that she didn't think he would let her try all these conquering tricks on him. Guang appreciates Chang's attack. Her nose is bleeding. She gets to her feet. Floating objects around are filled with blue energy. Guan spreads his arms to the sides and looks at Chang with a grin. She tells him that until he gets over his stubbornness, he cannot hope that they will sleep in the same room. Morning came. Jianren wishes good morning and asks if last night wasn't amazing. Chang also wishes her a good morning, but without much enthusiasm. He is hanging upside down in a sleeping bag, tied up and suspended from the ceiling. Guan is lying next to me on the bed and smiling. Chang says he would rather lie down on this clumsy sleeping bag. Jianren is amazed by the picture she saw. There is a plate with strange dishes on the table, a cocktail with a floating ball in a glass next to it. Chang sits in front of the untouched food, arms crossed over his chest, and looks at Guang. She looks away, her head propped on her hand. They are asked a question about what happened to them last night. Jianren tells Chang that if Guang Shu made him sad, then let her apologize on her behalf. Something happened during the test yesterday that really worried their girl. Jianren continues, asking Guang Shu to let Chang Jikan take a look. Guan frowns, and shows Chang a hole in his chest. She says that one of the evil spirits was always with her, but he slipped away despite her care. Chang is amazed that evil spirits lived under Guan's chest. He is interested in what kind of evil it was, to which Jianren replies that this is the one they found yesterday at their meeting place. She means the little purple monster. His name is Naru. He's a particularly curious scum. Jianren says she didn't think she needed to keep an eye on him, so she just left him in Guang Shu's arms. She just didn't expect this. Jianren asks if Chang is willing to help her fix her mistake. Chang says that of course he is ready. After all, this is the job he agreed to. He asks permission to touch Guan's hands as soon as they finish the job. She is not happy with this request, but Jianren agrees. Chang says that before you act, you need to know where Naru lived. If you find out about it, then there will be a chance to get on his trail. Guan tells Chang that there is no problem, but asks him to do everything quickly. Chang puts his hand into the hole in Guan's body where Naru lived. He is amazed that her artificial body is so realistic and soft. She is pleased with such words, and she asks if Chang doubted her handiwork. Chang mentally touches the tentacle with his hand. He begins to feel something. Chang feels and sees the tracks. He understands that it is Naru. He sees a glowing red ball. Even for evil spirits, Naru is very unusual. Chang and Guang are sitting at the table and pointedly do not look at each other. Guang Shu is unhappy and confused about something. She crosses her arms over her chest and asks Chang that, according to the rules of human etiquette, she should apologize to him. He turns to her in surprise, but Guan still doesn't look at him. Chang is silent and continues to look at her, and she turns to him questioningly. Guan takes Chang by the t-shirt on his chest and starts shouting that shouldn't he tell her now it's okay or don't worry. It's okay. Chang asks Guan about what she expected from him indulgence. He says she seems to know a lot about human etiquette, and why doesn't she use it? Guan thoughtfully says that people are always looking for benefits, they have evil intentions. She understands people, so she can't relax around them. For example, people should be afraid of evil spirits, but nevertheless some are carried away by evil spirits. And Goen does not understand the reason for this. In the flashback, the girl hugs the boy and, addressing him, Ralkun, says that he did nothing wrong. It was they who abandoned him. They refused them. Chang thinks about it, and Goen answers that this usually happens because some guys have good taste. To which he gets an answer from the girl that he can because bullies like him don't have friends. Goen, stepping into the transport vessel, tells Chang that he is trying to help him in controlling the evil spirits. The ship takes off. Goen continues by saying that in the management process, people often pose the greatest threat. Chang understands her, but as a person he has to tell her something. The ship is flying in space, and out of the purple energy, a car appears, ending up in a landfill. Goen comes out and says they are in place. She asks Chang if he feels Naru's presence here. Chang also comes out, looks around and says that he feels evil spirits, but he has no physical ability to communicate with them. However, it knows everything. We are talking about the red eye that appeared over Chang. Goen looks up and asks what he's talking about. She obviously can't see anything. Chang tells her to just follow him. He thinks that this giant eye appeared after he encountered his aura in Naru's nest. Since then, Naru is interested in nature. He usually just goes wherever his eyes look. Chang runs when he hears a cry asking for rescue. He and Goen stop. They see a girl with brown hair who is sitting pressed against the wall. She shuts herself off from the little purple creature. Goen joyfully runs past her shouting, "Naru." She asks him to wait, see it's her. But Naru runs away, hiding behind a bend and leaving a confused Goen. She is amazed that Naru has disappeared into thin air. Chang sees the giant red eye again and thinks that seeing the shift in the viewing angle, one might think that this is the ability to evade Naru. No wonder Guan Nush can't control it. However, it is not necessary to talk about this person as well. He turns to the girl. She shouts to him if he saw and noticed what she saw too. The girl says that this monster actually came for her betel nuts. She shows an open package of nuts. In India and Southeast Asian countries, betel leaves are traditionally used as a tonic. They are chewed together with slaked lime and pieces of katechu palm seeds. Chang is thinking about betel nuts. The girl says that this is spiritual sustenance, which she cannot find time to enjoy in any way. She turns away from Chang, clutching the package in her hands. He asks her to calm down, saying that he does not need nuts. Chang thinks about the fact that Jianren said that Naru is attracted to various new things. Naru was interested in trying nuts. The girl tells Chang that she would never have thought that she would meet such a terrible monster. She asks if Chang thinks he's terrible, to which he replies that he didn't notice anything terrible. She is surprised by his words. She apologizes for her crazy talk. She went so far and thought that she had met someone who did not consider her evil. Chang is surprised. He remembers how people pointed at him and shouted that he was a freak, an outcast. They shouted that his words were strange, that he wasn't even human. Chang realized that all the people around him were even stranger. Suddenly, behind Chang and the girl, a man in a bathrobe and glasses points a finger in their direction and says that here she is. The girl is grabbed by two people, one of whom says that she runs away from the shelter so often that it scares them to death. They say that this time she will get a straitjacket in solitary confinement. The girl tries to escape, asking the men to stop, since her nuts have not been eaten yet. They say nuts are bad for her. She can't eat them. Chang is watching the whole picture. Goen asks Chang that didn't these guys communicate with Naru, and who is this girl? Chang says the girl is just mentally ill. In any case, he wouldn't compare himself to her. Chang calls Goen to go on, saying that he hopes that no one will be disturbed by the search for Naru. The man who found the runaway girl looks after the departing Chang and Goen and says the name Naru. He's surprised that this guy just called the scum Naru. He finds it interesting and decides to follow Chang and Goen. Maybe they can just sit back and just harvest. Naru rides along the road, followed by Chang and Goen. They stop when they see Naru jumping into a remote street with eateries. Goen suggests that maybe Naru has recently developed an interest in human food. Naru turns out to be female. Chang says that fortunately it's not time for lunch yet, so they can take the initiative to get Naru out of there. In response, Goen asks what kind of food Chang will lure her out of there. A busy street with eateries and various establishments. Chang tells Goen to just go first and talk to the vendors. Goen turns to Chang in surprise and asks what is wrong with him. He's like a savage who goes shopping for the first time in a year. Chang tells her that if he knows how to get along with evil spirits, it does not mean that he gets along well with people. He continues that everyone has their pros and cons, and his plan is simply called working with his strengths. Goen says that it is not necessary to speak so convincingly, clinging to someone, because Chang squeezes her shoulder. She says that in this case she will go first. Her prosthetic human body is just right for situations where she encounters people. She has always done well with them, and now she will show Chang her skills. She addresses the boss to the masked salesman. Goen asks for a portion of fried chicken. The seller considers Goen a polite girl. Goen gets a portion of fried chicken. She pulls the bag of food up. Naru looks at her from the awning of one of the diners. Chang and Goen notice her. Chang says Naru is looking at them. Goen is surprised that the bait in the form of food really works. They continue to stand, Naru watching them. And a second later she disappears. Goen is amazed that it doesn't work. Chang says that what they have chosen does not suit her. The smell of fried chicken is too fresh. Perhaps they should choose something with a sharper smell. Goen asks what Chang means by a pungent smell. Chang points to the window of one of the shops and asks what about this. A fragrance spreads along the street, which everyone is surprised by. Chang and Goen are sitting at a table outside. There is food in front of them in a plate, from which there is a strange smell. This is a liu-siphon dish, that is, rice noodles with river snail. This is Chinese noodle soup, which has a sharp, unpleasant smell which can fill the entire restaurant and even the surrounding streets. Goen doesn't like the smell coming from the dish, and she asks Chang if he really likes it. Chang replies that he is not sure, but hopes so. Here Naru appears on the chair next to the plate, attracted by the smell of food. Naru climbs onto the table. She looks at Chang and Goen. Goen does not understand why Naru is interested in the dish, but does not eat. Chang looks at the evil spirits and says that he screwed up, asking for forgiveness. Chang says he remembers her running away at the first meeting. He remembers his moments with Naru. Chang continues that there is nothing more exciting, or frustrating, or even dangerous. All because Naru saw someone who felt a strong infatuation with her, which led her into madness. Chang honestly says that when people are full, they are relaxed. So Naru goes where the food smells. He thinks Naru is looking for a relaxed atmosphere. Chang addresses Goen as a sinner. She replies that she is embarrassed to hear such an appeal. Chang puts gloves on her hands and says that her job is to figure out evil spirits among the crowd. Maybe they haven't known each other for a long time, but he understands how difficult it is for her. Chang hands Goen a piece of chicken and says that in that case, why not relax today and eat human food? Goen is confused and asks Chang why he is doing this. Chang replies that he knows what he's doing. He asks for help to change this tense atmosphere. Goen is amazed. She eats a piece of chicken held out by Chang. He is interested in whether this food is delicious. Goen, chewing, replies that it is better than liu-siphon. People around are watching Chang and Goen, thinking that there is love between them. Naru is also watching them with interest. Here Naru stares intently at Chang. Evil spirits are covered by turquoise energy. Naru turns into a girl with blue hair. Goen and Chang look at her in amazement. The girl points her hand at Chang, then at liu-siphon, and then at her open mouth. Chang is amazed by Naru's new look. Goen is also surprised that Naru was able to transform. Goen says that the evil lord told her that Naru's transformation shows her understanding of things. Naru transforms after the others are enchanted. Goen reflects on the fact that if she remembers correctly, Naru's transformation is a deep impression of the reverse side of the soul. She thinks about how the sight of a little girl affects Chang Tsai Kun. Naru beats his hands and screams, making strange noises. Chang leans over to Goen, asking what Naru said. Goen answers him that isn't he their self-proclaimed bizarro telepath. Chang explains that his knowledge is not enough with such a level of empathy. Isn't reading minds a superpower? And is an average person like him capable of such a thing? Goen thinks that if Chang is the most ordinary, then there are no normal people left on Earth at all. Suddenly, Naru leans over to Chang and bites his finger. He is initially amazed by her behavior, but then realizes that Naru is asking to feed her. Chang pulls a plate of liu-siphon towards him and scoops noodles out with chopsticks. Then, he brings these noodles to Naru. Suddenly, Goen shouts, warning Naru of the danger. Naru is hit by something, causing her to fall off her chair. Chang and Goen get up and see a man who says they were able to get this Blizzaro to get rid of his protection. He clutches a weapon in his hands, from which a purple glowing rope stretches, which is tied around the neck of Naru, standing next to him. She's in pain. The man thanks Chang and Goen for this. Chang is amazed that the man also sees Naru. Before and after the transformation, ordinary people cannot see them. The man says that this is the whole problem. Chang and Goen are not members of the lunar community, but they can see traces of Blizzaro, so they take them with them. 3 men shoot Chang and Goen with the same purple glowing ropes that are tied around Naru's neck. Chang dodges the attack and demands an explanation from Goen. Goen also avoids the attack and replies that he will tell him everything when they return. She didn't think they would stumble upon them here. They are sworn enemies. Goen says we need to teach them a lesson and save Nara. Naru starts screaming violently. Chang says that her agitation solution has flowed. The amulet eye on Chang's chest fills with energy and informs him that an agitation vessel has been discovered. Now the owner can fully use all his strength. Chang releases tentacles from his hand, which grab the men who attacked them. The man holding Naru is also captured. He doesn't understand how this could happen. He thinks that Chang is not a man, but also a bizarre. Chang looks at him. His face has red stripes. His eyes are burning with purple light. Chang releases the tentacles of the men, and they fall to the ground. He says they overestimated them, because the attackers are weaklings. Goen is amazed that Chang Tsai Kun can be angry. Goen examines the men and says there are no weapons. They are ordinary people. They modified their eyes to see Bizarro. Chang calms Naru down, telling her that everything is fine. Everything is fine. He will help her to return the solution later. Goen pays attention to a car parked nearby. She says there is a confirmed mental patient in the attacker's transport. This is the girl they met earlier. Goen says that most likely those whom men catch are ordinary people. Goen opens the car door, saying that the girl may also be a victim. The girl gets out of the car. She is shocked and asks if they got rid of them. Goen asks the girl what the men did to her. She takes a bag of nuts from one of the men, kicks him and says that she warned him not to take betel seeds from her. Then, the girl looks at Chang and Nara and says in surprise that they were able to catch that monster. Chang says Naru is not a monster, and they didn't catch her, but are going to release her. The girl is amazed by his words. Her tongue sticks out of her mouth, which is another mouth. Then she jumps, and her mouth looks like a monster with sharp teeth. The girl growls. The girl jumps on Chang and Naru, intending to bite them. Chang deflects her attack by covering himself with tentacles. Naru is scared. She runs, turning from a girl back into a purple little monster on the move. Goen unbuttons his jacket so that a hole under his chest is visible. She calls Naru to get to her faster. Naru jumps into the hole. Chang pulls the tentacles back into his hand. The girl freezes in front of him and asks why he lied to her. She remembers their meeting with Chang, how he said that he did not notice any terrible monster. She tells him that he can see monsters, but why he tricked her. Chang says he hasn't seen them before, but now everything has changed. The girl asks him not to say such offensive words. She leans towards him and continues that after their first meeting, she knew that they were connected by the threads of the past. She hits Chang in the chest, causing him to fly away. He manages to stay on his feet and not fall. Chang asks her if she thinks they are similar. Goen watches them from behind the window, sitting in the building. She realizes that that girl is also from the Lunar Corporation. This is a cursed bunch of people who will never stop hunting Bizarro and revive the Lunar Corporation. Goen looks at the girl and realizes that her transformation is at a level that surpasses the strength of all that armed crowd. Goen understands that she needs to intervene, but Naru inside her is not stable. If the enemy is stronger than she assumes, then she cannot save everyone. She thinks it's better for Chang Tsai Kun to run. That's all they can do now. Chang stands holding his stomach. He releases tentacles from his hands towards the girl, using a blitzkrieg. The girl responds to him with a counterattack, using a chattering Arladerski. Her attack surpasses Chang's attack in strength. She tells him that he shouldn't have stood up to her. Her eyes light up red. She shouts join in. Chang's tentacles entangle her tongue. A green mist begins to swirl around her. The amulet eye informs Chang that super dense neurotoxins have been detected. He asks the owner to continue in the same spirit. Fog envelops Chang, and he finds himself in a dark, incomprehensible place. Chang looks around in surprise, not understanding what happened. He hears a call for help, and sees a huge red monster approaching the girl. She asks for help, being afraid of a huge monster. The girl turns to Chang and asks if he can see monsters. She asks to help her and save her. She doesn't want to die. Chang is surprised. He squeamishly tells her what kind of monster he is talking about. Chang shouts at the girl that she has gone crazy, or was trying to attract attention to herself. The girl assures him that everything is wrong. She would never. Chang grabs her by the clothes on her chest, pulls her towards him and continues to shout that he is disgusted. Did she really think that this would work on him? He calls the girl a vile creature and raises his hand to strike. Suddenly, he freezes in shock. Chang looks at his hands and doesn't understand what it was. He understands that he didn't do it. This is an illusion, a show with his participation. A girl materializes out of the void and informs him that he has finally seen the game. She appears behind Chang's back and tells him that misunderstanding was their main problem. Chang raises his hand and tries to use blitzkrieg, but the tentacles don't appear. Surprised, he grabs the place on his chest where the amulet should have been, but it's not there. The girl hugs him from behind and tells him not to worry, because it's safe here. No one can hurt them. Chang is surprised, and the girl informs him that he can understand her. Chang sympathizes with all Bizarros and they are peers. She asks Chang to accept her offer and become one with her. Together they will be able to kill those monsters that oppress them. Chang stands amazed. A giant red eye glows above him and the girl. In reality, Chang stands frozen, his tentacles squeezing the girl's tongue. Goen continues to watch them and does not understand why they stopped. Although she doesn't know the strength of the opponent, but this is a great chance to finish everything. Suddenly, Naru flies out of the hole in her chest. She jumps right on Chang's head despite Goen asking her to stop. Naru jumps on Chang's head, wrapping his tentacles around it. Chang continues to stand motionless with his eyes closed. A little boy stands in a red mist. This is Chang Tsai Kun. Since birth, he has the ability to see strange creatures. They are always around people. Sometimes they fight with each other. Two huge monsters are fighting in the sky above the city. Occasionally they catch people. The monster sneaks up on the girl watching the phone. At first, Chang himself was terrified. But in the end, he encountered the existence of more terrifying monsters. The boy is sitting and crying in fright, and the three shadows in front of him, addressing him, say that everyone is thinking about the same thing, that it would be better if he disappeared. Chang is standing, and a girl is hugging him from behind. He doesn't understand why he remembers that day. What a strange flashback this is. He remembers everything that has happened since then. A dark-haired girl appears before him. A giant red eye glows above it. Chang is amazed by what he saw. The girl behind his back is angry and asks what's the matter, what foreigners have forgotten here. Her eyes are glowing. Blood is dripping from her lips. The dark-haired girl says that the atmosphere has become a little restless. It's all lousy, lousy. She leans over to Chang and says that there is such a serene atmosphere here. That's sweet, sweet. The girl behind Chang says that this place is a psychic sphere. And finally, the critical moment has come to eat this guy. She wraps one arm around Chang's neck, pulls him aside and releases her tongue into the other girl, shouting at her not to interfere. A huge mouth wraps around a dark-haired girl, teeth clench around her. She asks hurt. The girl squeezing Chang replies to her that it is difficult for her to cope with several people at a time. But how can she miss such a tasty morsel? She uses a withering mind-eater and the jaws close around Naru. She's hiding in the monster's mouth. Suddenly, the girl freezes in shock. In the place where Naru was, the monster's skin begins to pulsate and inflate. The girl is furious. Her tongue explodes and Naru flies out. The girl looks at the remains of her tongue in shock. Naru stands while chunks of monster flesh fall around her. She brings her arms to her chest, and energy begins to gather to her. The energy materializes into a red ball, which Naru brings to his eyes and smiles. The evil girl is shocked. Naru swallows the ball and chews it, smacking his lips. Then, Naru spits out a ball with the words, "disgusting." She says she felt a mixed taste of man and creature. So the girl in front of her is a mutant man who absorbed the creatures. Naru finds it lousy. The giant red eye lights up behind her, and she puts her hand to her face and says if she doesn't eat it, she won't be able to return her darling. The girl is amazed that she was really wounded in her own mind. She is amazed at what kind of monster Naru is. Naru approaches her and Chang, a giant red eye blazing brightly behind her. Naru says that the guess with the monster is correct. She's just a monster that can't be defeated in the psychic realm. She asks the girl how about her takeover. The eye turns into a huge monster and devours the girl. In reality, the girl stands amazed. Pathetic scraps of her tongue remained. Chang comes to himself in surprise. He sees that the girl is falling and does not understand how it happened. Naru informs him that the girl has just suppressed his psyche. He's doing well now. Naru leans over to him and tells him to try to save everything as payment. Naru continues, saying that she has already seen his past. It's so surprisingly delicious. Naru finds it very cute. Chang is amazed. Goen waves his hand in front of his eyes and turning to him, asks if everything is right with him. They hear a scream and turn to the source of the sound. It's Naru, turned into a little girl again, and pulling Chang's clothes. Chang tells Goen not to worry, that everything is fine. But he thinks about what the hell just happened. Naru is a great eye or a separate being. He remembers the giant eye and wonders which of what he saw is his fantasy, and which is reality. Naru happily clings to his hand, and he thinks that Naru is the most phenomenal strange he has ever met. The covers are fastened on the monster's red leg. Chang says that should be enough, but the truth will get in the way while walking. The red monster is lying without arms. Covers are fastened on her legs. Chang looks at her new clothes and says that from now on she won't get lost, even outside the moonrise. The creature turns to him gratefully. Chang understands everything from her look and says it's nothing. If she's happy, so is he. The creature snuggles up to his shoulder in appreciation. Something attracts Chang's attention here. Jianren and Gona sit down at the table. Naru is sitting on her hands. Jianren smilingly tells Chang Tsai Kun that this time he coped with the task. It's the first time she's seen a man get along with Bizarro so quickly. Jianren stirs a cocktail in a glass with a straw. Jianren continues, saying that she even worried that it would end soon. But Chang surprised her more than she realized. Chang answers her that according to history and legends, people believed a lot of creatures, basically kept them at bay. Chang continues by saying that the same snakes were once victims of human contempt. But in fact, snakes are very timid and cautious. They defend themselves from everyone who is nearby. Some people can live in harmony with snakes if they understand them. Chang says that sparrows were also considered one of the 4 pests, and now they live all over the world. people are afraid of white snouts and long legs of spiders, however, they remain those who practically do not harm humans. The mastery of rationality over fear is the pinnacle of human development. Chang ends his speech by saying that he understands Bizarro well, and this method helps them to coexist without harm to each other. Goen responds by telling him that the creatures are dangerous. She says it's in their instincts to do harm, if the fact that they harm people is impossible to stop. Goen asks Chang if he believes it is possible to get along with people. Chang responds by saying that didn't she just talk about some aspects of humanity? If such a question arises, won't people fight? Chang says people won't stop until they draw the line. A line of blood. Jianren squeezes her eyelids after these words. Chang continues, saying that you can't talk about everyone like that. He asks if the creatures are so dangerous that even he can't handle them. He points his finger at Jianren and says that the non-entity is a great example. Chang asks, addressing the non-entity, that isn't the essence of the point of sunrise. Jianren replies that his words are absolutely correct. It is her duty to accept dangerous creatures and look after them. She never shirks her duties. Chang asks, however, what happened to those guys who attacked him, Goen and Naru. Chang wonders if they did the right thing by leaving them there. He asks if this gang has gone through something like the capture of the moon. A lot of metal cables are hanging in the air. The girl opens her eyes slightly, in which a red glow is visible. A red liquid flows through the metal wires. They lead to a huge red ball. The girl opens her eyes wide and surprised. It hangs, tied with metal wires. Her hands are tied above her head. Instead of the lower half of her torso, she has a tangle of metal wires. She sees herself and asks what happened to her. A voice is heard saying, "What a pity, my knight." A man in a white coat approaches the girl. This is a man with long blue hair. He looks condescendingly at the girl and says that it is not only him who is ashamed of her defeat. Her defeat is a great shame for the capture of the moon. The girl is scared. She starts stuttering to address the man as Lord Baron. Lord Baron leans over to her and says it's worth looking at that pretty face. When he first saw her, it was completely different. He remembers a lonely little girl who stands and looks at the night city. She looks thin and haggard. The bullying destroyed her body. The tell nuts made her lips dry. The drugs paralyzed her mind. Moreover, she was desperate and unable to control her life. The girl's face is tear-stained and emaciated. Her lips are very dry. Her fingers are reaching for her throat. Lord Baron shouts to the girl that he saved her, and with these words, he punches her in the face. He continues, saying that she was not only cured by the influx of Bizarro, but also received considerable strength. Lord Baron says he had high hopes for her. They had to subdue the creatures and take possession of them. At these words, he squeezes the girl's face with his hand. Continuing to hold her by the head, Lord Baron says that under his leadership, not to mention the barons and viscounts, she had the opportunity to become the Duke of capturing the moon. Lord Baron's eyes light up red. He says he gave her so much, and in return he asked only one thing, not to screw up. Lord Baron forcefully squeezes the girl's face, causing her pain, causing her to scream. He asks her how she could betray him like that. How could she lose all the power he had given her? The girl is crying, her supernatural tongue sticking out. She asks the Lord Baron for forgiveness. The girl begs him to give her another chance. The Lord Baron is standing when an explosion is heard in front of him and the girl is consumed by fire. He grins, saying that she is just a pawn and he will have many more like her. The girl's tongue falls to the floor, which looks like a separate living being that moves. The Lord Baron watches him and says that the resources are being extracted too slowly. This undermines the progress of lunar exploration. The tongue lies on a metal conveyor belt, where the tentacles, wing and tail also lie. Lord Baron says the Bizarros are evil and they are dangerous. Bizarro, enemies of humanity. The ability to convert resources into energy is the best fate for such creatures. This is the highest human mercy. The Lord Baron stands and looks down at the ribbon on which the supernatural parts of creatures lie. He says that the moonrise, led by beings, must fall. This world should belong to a new order, the order of the capture of the moon. Lord Baron brings the card to his face, peering at the image on it. He looks at Chang's image and wonders if this is the man who destroyed his beloved knight. A greedy gleam lights up in the eyes of the Lord Baron. He looks furiously at the photo image of Chang. Lord Baron says he wants to see the traitor of humanity in person. A classroom with desks. Some of the students communicate with each other standing up, some sit and talk. Chang Tsai Kun sits apart from everyone, not paying attention to anyone. Behind his back, a guy and a girl whisper looking at Chang that isn't he the renegade. The girl, turning to the guy, asks if he knows what they say about Chang. Without waiting for an answer, she continues, saying that Chang has signed an agreement with the school. Chang's attendance will not be taken into account during the exams. The guy is surprised. He says it's not according to the rules even in a private school. It's not fair even to the other students. The girl squeezes the fingers of her right hand and says that's right, the guy doesn't know. She informs him that from the moment Chang is enrolled in school, he takes first places wherever he takes part. A table with Chang's name at the head is shown. The guy gets up from his desk, punching his palm. He asks that Chang is a headstrong star. Yes. He says he wants to see what this oaf is capable of. Chang has been sitting and studying the tablet all this time. The girl, without changing her posture, continues that Chang is also the best in physical education. Chang surpasses even the teacher in strength. These words surprise the guy, and he asks her again. The girl pulls aside her hand with a nail file and leaning towards the guy says that she advises him not to touch Chang. She says that there are rumors that Chang was constantly bullied by classmates as a child. As a result, these guys went missing. Chang continues to look at the tablet. Jianren is sitting on the sofa next to Guon, from whose chest Naru is sticking out. She says, addressing Chang Tsai Kun, that you need to respect her human origin. He may consider the search for creatures a part-time job, but Chang should put his human life first. Jianren continues by saying that thanks to her guidance, Moonrise follows the path of harmonious coexistence. She says, hand on heart, that if Chang were to fully unite with Moonrise, it would contradict her intention to invite him. Then, Jianren turns around on the sofa, addressing Guon, and says that now it's worth returning to the information about the exploration of the moon. She asks Goen Shaw's permission to contact him by phone, and asks Chang to take a look when he has a minute. Goen squeezes her fingers in a gesture of okay. Naru is already sitting on her lap. Chang looks at the tablet that broadcasts the image of Jianren, Guon and Naru. He thinks about what a lunar capture is. A Goen with a pointer in his hand tells him from a tablet that the lunar capture, or rather the capture of the moon, is a human organization that has not been made public before. It is not known when this organization was founded, maybe decades, maybe centuries ago. Goen continues by saying that all members of the moon capture are human, but these are not pure-blooded people. They hunted evil spirits, trying in every possible way to take away their powers. Pictures of how people capture monsters are shown. Chang looks thoughtfully at the tablet. He wonders if the members of the moon capture are hybrids of humans and creatures. Goen continues, pointing with his pointer at the half-human, half-monster drawing. She says that the limbs and powers of the creatures were surgically transplanted onto human bodies. It is in this way that the capture of the moon refers to evil spirits. Chang thinks about the fact that those creatures who have been robbed of limbs and strength. He looks at the tablet. It represents the parts of monsters separated from their bodies. Chang understands that those infrequent creatures were considered just a resource. They were thrown away like garbage. Chang stares at the tablet screen in horror. Goen continues by saying that the capture of the moon is based on a strict system of imperial titles. She says that in capturing the moon, titles go from highest to lowest. Titles are divided into dukes, marquesses, counts, viscounts, and barons. Chang remembers the girl he fought with. He comes to the conclusion that the girl was not a baron, but she was taller than the knight who had just joined the moon capture. Goen, tapping his pointer on his hand, says that strength is not the determining factor for determining the status in capturing the moon. Goen tells Chang that he is unlikely to be able to handle a knight, let alone a titled member of moon capture. Goen, with a serious face, tells Chang that if he faces moon capture alone, he should immediately retreat. Suddenly, Chang is shocked by something. He gets up from his desk. He's alone in an empty classroom. The lights went out. Chang asks what it is, a power outage. Chang looks around and thinks that it all looks strange. It's usually not that dark, and at this time it should be very noisy around. Chang looks around the empty classroom and mentally wonders why no one is there. He continues to reflect on the fact that he does not hear any sounds. The school seemed deserted. Lord Baron is walking down the corridor of the school. Suddenly, something catches his attention. He stops. Lord Baron looks from behind the glass at Chang, who looks back at him. Chang walks out of the classroom into the hallway. He tells the Lord Baron that if he came to take revenge, then why did he choose such a place? Chang asks Lord Baron if he is the head of the capture of the moon. The latter looks at him in silence in response. Then, he smiles amiably and tells Chang that he realized who he was so quickly. Lord Baron calls Chang an unusual guy. The Lord Baron laughs and says that he has not come to take revenge. He continues by saying that Chang will help him regulate losses by getting rid of weak ties in advance, so he should thank Chang. Chang stands with his hands in his pockets and unfriendly replies to the Lord Baron that it's all nonsense, and he'd better just get lost. Lord Baron brings his hand to his face, instead of fingers on which there are red tentacles. Lord says they need people now. He smiles. The lack of assistance really upsets him. Lord Baron holds out his tentacled hand to Chang and offers him an offer to join the capture of the moon and take the place of this woman. Chang tiredly tilts his head, closing his eyes, and says that Lord Baron's people are a pain in the ass. Then, he angrily looks at the interlocutor, asks if he is deaf. He said he didn't care, and the Lord should get out. Lord Baron spreads his hands to the sides and tells Chang that he seems to have misunderstood something. His gaze becomes predatory, and he, addressing Chang, says that this is not an offer but a threat. Members of the capture of the moon at this time took the students of Chang's school hostage. Those frightened ones are sitting on the floor, looking at the men in fear, with supernatural weapons in their hands. Lord Baron tells Chang that until he agrees to his proposal, people will be killed one by one. Chang is surprised to ask the Lord Baron that he has taken over the school and is holding everyone hostage as a threat. Chang, smiling, says that why should he care about their lives? They are just parts of a mindless crowd. The Lord Baron is startled by his words. Then, he brings a hand with tentacle fingers to his face and laughs. Lord Baron tells Chang that he likes his answer. Chang has exactly what you need for a lunar capture. Lord Baron narrows his eyes and says that if Chang is playing a comedy here, then how can he think about letting his guard down? Lord Baron rushes to the attack, saying that why doesn't he check on Chang? Part of his body becomes a red energy mist. Chang squints at the light. He realizes it's a flash and covers his face with his hand. Then, Chang opens his eyes and can't figure out what happened. There is no one in the corridor in front of him. Chang asks where the Lord Baron has gone. Suddenly, a green ribbon sticks out of the socket and entangles Chang's legs. He is amazed where these bonds came from. They took him by surprise. Chang uses purple tentacles against the ribbons entangling him. He uses Blitzkrieg. Suddenly, behind his back, the Lord Baron asks that the Blitzkrieg is the power that the moonrise gave Chang. The so-called mixture of excited particles. It doesn't look like Zhen's strength. Lord Baron appears behind Chang's back, saying that there are worlds between his strength and Chang's strength. He punches Chang in the face. Chang flies into the wall, causing a funnel to form in it. Stones are flying around. Chang is injured. Red tentacles begin to entwine his body. He understands that the Baron's strength is long tentacles that curl, forming something like a strong and elastic rope. Chang is slammed into the wall, his arms and legs wrapped in red tentacles. Chang realizes that compared to their powers, he is not their equal. The purple tentacle tries to pull the tablet out of Chang's pocket. There is an outbreak. Lord Baron approaches Chang and asks that he wants to contact someone. He will not succeed. He introduces himself as Baron Egan. Most of all, he does not like it when they stick their noses into their business and turn the arrows. He says it won't work, it won't help. Deception after deception, excuse after excuse. Is it really all for your own benefit? The Baron leans into Chang's face and asks him why they don't take over the world and turn it into a place where they can do anything without these things. Chang asks what the Baron will do with him in such a world. Baron Egan raises his hand and says that he will get control over Chang. Chang looks at the glowing red trail. The Baron continues that he will demand power for a lunar takeover. A flash of red energy directed at Chang hits the purple shield. The Baron is amazed. There is a red gleam in his eyes. He wonders what's going on. Chang breaks out of his bonds and walks towards the Baron. He tells him that he is something about a conjurer of evil spirits. Although the Baron transplanted them and changed their appearance in the human body, the fact that they are bizarro remains. Chang raises his hand. The tentacles do not curl. Chang says that the Baron's powers are not so much different from his own. Chang jumps towards the Baron. Red lines stretch behind him. The tentacles on Chang's hands curled into a shell, the tip of which is directed at the Baron. Chang tells him that he is handling his powers more clumsily. The Baron is amazed at this. He stops the shell created by Chang with red tentacles. Anger burns in his eyes. The Baron pulls the shell away from his face, holding it with both tentacled hands. Baron Egan angrily asks Chang how this is possible. He shouts to Chang that his forces should have smeared the ladder. How did Chang have any chances at all? Chang looks at the Baron and tells him not to complicate the task. Fortunately, Chang has a good academic record. He goes on to say that he is also well versed in creatures. Chang looks angrily at Baron Egan and asks him if he has inquired about this before running around the world and doing whatever he wants. Chang remembers the Baron's attack, grabbing his leg with tentacles from the socket, and how the Baron disappeared. He understands that starting from the power outage and the creation of flashes of light from sources to the release of tentacles from sockets, and the Baron's phrases about the fact that Chang's powers are not similar to Zheng's. The Baron himself reminded him that their powers are similar. The Baron, holding Chang's tentacles, shouts that it can't be, and that Chang doesn't understand he can't leave. The Baron looks at the sparkling particles around. He says in amazement that it's a mixture of excited particles. Chang smiles and answers him that if such a pathetic mutant as Baron can, then why is Chang not capable of it? The amulet eye informs Chang that the particle barrier has been destroyed. Chang can shoot. Chang's tentacles light up with purple energy. He is terrified of this attack. The Baron screams. His body shudders from the streams of energy. Chang looks at him and says he's sorry. No one should stand in the way of his charged tentacles. Chang continues by asking the Baron that he thought he could do whatever he wanted. The Baron is too arrogant. His human being lacks the charm of creatures. The Baron's eyes are completely reddened. He angrily pronounces Chang's name. The upper half of the Baron's body is naked. It is dotted with red lines. Baron angrily says that Chang pushed him. Chang says someone got angry. He asks the Baron why it is so difficult to restrain arrogance. The Baron is angry. His eyes are burning red. He tells Chang that provoking him only makes it worse for himself. The Baron changes. Red spikes grow out of his back. His fingers sharpen, lighting up with a red light. He says Chang is no longer suitable for lunar capture, which means he will turn him into expendable. A whirlwind of red energy flies into Chang, which throws him against the wall. Chang understands that this energy wind is an explosive electric current. The amulet eye reports that a mixture of excited particles has been detected. The enemy uses them as a guide. Chang says he seems to have figured out how to diffuse lightning. He just thought the tension would be higher. Chang says that the Baron has just devalued the particles, but still uses them without shame. The Baron replies to Chang that he should know his business, especially when it comes to creatures. Their forces have a common nature. The Baron rushes to attack Chang. Chang asks the Baron that he forgot that the wires are on his side. Chang's tentacles cling to wires from the wall, and they break them, causing a short circuit. There is an explosion. The Baron was able to dodge the explosion. Chang finds himself in another place, hiding around the corner. The amulet informs him that it is too dangerous. Chang could have been burned alive. Chang tells him that they could even match lightning resistance, but in terms of physical strength, he is inferior to the Baron. Chang notices that his opponent is heading to the gym. Chang realizes that the hostages are there. He needs to decide something before the Baron does something crazy. The Baron enters the room where his servants and hostages are located. One of the servants asks that judging by the noise outside, the issue is resolved. The Baron says that the power supply of this place is disgusting. He needs hostages. The girl says she has a bad feeling. She wonders if they will be killed. The guy tells her that she is the slimmest and most beautiful of all the students, and he is afraid that she will be captured and tortured. The Baron points to the guy and says to start with him. The Baron takes his hand. It sucks the life force out of him. The Baron throws the guy's body, saying that he got a lot of energy. Bioelectricity suits him better than batteries and the energy of power plants. The girl tries to bring the guy to his senses, but realizes that his heart is not beating. The Baron says that of course it doesn't beat, because he took all the bioelectric energy from him. The girl turns around, saying insults to the Baron. He grabs her by the neck with his tentacles and lifts her into the air. He tells her that she doesn't even deserve to be his dinner. Suddenly, purple tentacles burst out of the wall, which beat the Baron, throwing him away from the girl. Chang goes and says that bioelectricity is so powerful or electromagnetism is stronger. Its tentacles are entangled with metal wire.